Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra Batiste. That is Jarvis Davis. And we appreciate you guys for stopping by and checking us out on YouTube as our subscribers. The number continues to grow. We're now over 1,700. So keep that coming for the Locked On Sports Network here in Atlanta. And as always, subscribe and like, follow us, and let us know what you think about the show. And do that on the platforms where you get your podcasts as well, because, hey, you give us a 5-star review, and that's going to make other people want to stop by and say, wonder what this ATL Day Ones is all about. So appreciate you guys again for sticking with us, and always appreciate the opportunity to talk about things that are going on, multiple tentacles in the water, layers
Hmm.
to this, and all of that, right? We bring that to you guys each and every day when that happens. And it's interesting because as excited as we are about the Braves and as intrigued as we are about the Falcons, sometimes we really don't know what it's going to look like with the Hawks from day to day and all of the fodder out there. So let's kind of start right there, Jarvis, because again, so many layers to peel off. I just want to give you the high level of it, and then we want to talk about it because it's just so much. It's a lot. So let's start with what's going on outside the off the court, if you will, that's going to then dictate potentially what happens on the court. We found out yesterday that, hey, it's good to be Landry Fields right about now because
Right.
after
Yeah.
serving for just a couple of years as an assistant GM for the Hawks. Of course, he was previously in the front office with the Knicks and Spurs, but as an assistant GM with the Hawks for 2 years, now he has been promoted to GM by Travis Schlenk, who, of course, is the president of basketball operations, but also it's still served in that GM capacity this last year. And you like what Landry Fields brings to the table because he has been with an organization like the Knicks, and hey, no offense, but and seen how it can go wrong, but he's
Yeah.
also been with an organization like the Spurs who've gotten it right for decades, if you will.
Yes.
And now he's able to kind of take that coupled with his experience as a player in the league and maybe give an even more unique or layered or textured eye to what is going to be ultimately maybe the Hawks' most important offseason to date, right? So
Yeah.
that's,
So
that's how he starts.
yeah, I think that's the perfect place to start, right? Because when you think about it, like, Travis Slank has been at it for a few years now, with it being as running this organization and making those
Hmm.
those executive decisions, and now I think that you have an official, and like he's always, like you said, he's been an assistant general manager, so he's already been in the building. But I think that for him to add that title to there, that means like he's gonna have just a little bit more say, like a
Hmm.
little bit more
Hmm.
input. Of course, Travis Slayton's gonna make the final decision, no doubt about it. But I think that like having a different set of eyeballs on the situation is gonna
Yeah.
do nothing but help this organization, right? Because like you said, this is super duper Cooper important, right? This
Yeah.
is probably one of the most important off seasons
Hmm.
that Travis has ever seen, as a professional, because this is a make or break, right?
Yeah.
This is a make or break, year, because like you had
Yeah.
the run to the Eastern Conference Finals, you barely get into the playoffs, that you had to go through the hard way, the play-in tournament last
Hmm.
year,
Right.
and you came to the conclusion that, hey, this roster is not built to win in the
Right.
playoffs.
Yeah.
So we have to make changes. Like, and the only person that's probably safe is Trey Young. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's an
Agree.
indictment on how you built this team, right?
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, all right, now we got to figure out what pieces to move, what
Hmm.
guy's gonna go, who's expendable, who's not.
Right.
And I think that when you're in that situation, it always helps to have a trained eye. And I think Landry
Yeah.
Fields is that guy, because
Yeah.
he's 33 years old. Like I say, he's a former NBA player, and he's been in organizations where, hey, this is what not to do. And he's been
Hmm.
in organizations where, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you keep a job for 20, 30 years,
Hmm.
like in one organization,
Yeah.
and being up under Greg Popovich. So I think right now, in this moment, in this space, I think that this is good for the Hawks. This is
Right.
something that is going to help them move forward, and Travis Schlenk is going to help him stick around for maybe the next decade or so.
It
Because
could.
if the right decisions are made,
Hmm.
something can be really special brewing down here in Atlanta.
Yeah. And one thing that Landry Fields will have to consider is not just who's going to be available in free agency or the draft, but how do you take the pieces that you already have within the Hawks organization and start to move those pieces around, and whether or not there are things that complicate those decisions, like Bogdanovics and where his health is and how that might impact the ability to use him as a trade piece, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we know, taking nothing away from Jalen Johnson and the fact that he underwent a non-surgical procedure as well in the offseason. He had some tendonitis that was bothering him in his left knee, but we know that the real emphasis on what the Hawks announced today was
Right.
Bogey's injury, undergoing surgery for that bothersome right patella tendon
Right.
that was really causing all that knee inflammation that we saw, kept him, giving us ebbs and flows throughout, especially throughout the postseason.
Play. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that kind of made me, and not that we didn't know that was coming, but now that it's been formally announced, that made me think, ooh, how does that really affect some of what's going to happen, and the possibility of him being a moving part, although he hasn't been the number one moving part that's been discussed, but he's definitely been one of the top moving parts for the Hawks.
No doubt about it, because like when you look at his contract, it's not that bad.
Right.
It's a contract that most teams who are contenders will be willing to take on, even if they
Mhm.
aren't contenders, they'd be willing
Right.
to take on.
Yes.
So because it's short term, it's a short term contract.
Right.
I have a couple of years, I believe,
Mhm.
off the top of my head that he
Yeah.
has left on it. So
He does. Yeah. Or
and
year, yeah.
then so when you think about that, like that with even with the dealing with the injury, Bo was still solid.
Yeah.
He was
Oh,
still
yeah,
solid,
yeah.
even when he
There's
was
still
dealing with the
home.
injury. Yeah, he still had some solid moments, and especially specifically in the fourth quarter. And that's what you look for when you're trying to find that piece to help either add to a young locker room or add to a contending locker room. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think that there's still some value there. And I think that his name has been thrown around, and another name that's been thrown around is John Collins.
John Collins, yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Keep purposing.
I'm not gonna get into all of them, but I
Right.
think just overall, looking at all of the
Mhm.
rumors and everything like that, it
Yeah. It's been
seems like to
crazy.
me, T,
Yeah.
that the Hawks want to be in that lottery, right? They want to be in that, be able to pick in the lottery and trade up and use John Collins as a trade up piece to kind of get some younger, cheaper talent, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who can contend. But my whole thing with that is like, is Nate McMillan gonna play them? Play the guy.
Right.
Because Jalen Johnson, yeah, he had the surgery, but I don't know what I got in Jalen. I mean, I saw
Right.
some flashes, like
Yeah.
you saw something there, but
Yeah,
we
because you
don't
only got to
know.
see him in flashes.
Right, exactly. So you don't necessarily really know how to assess him to
Yeah.
even consider whether or not you move him or not. Like you got to keep him around because you don't know what you necessarily really have. So
Yeah. And
yeah, go ahead.
I just thought, when I saw some of those rumors that were tied to a trade of John Collins to move up in the draft, that one for me is probably the one. And hey, look, you and I could be having this conversation in a few weeks and I could be dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But this organization has put itself in position, and I always use Clint Capela as the example. Yes,
Right.
he was maybe not the top tier, but he was right there at the top tier in terms of free agents that were available, although they got him in February and weren't able to play him for the rest of that season. But look how that turned out. To me, that
Turned out
sets the
very
stage for
well.
saying that free agents are willing to come here, and that if you come here, you're going to be definitely treated right, and you're going to be given the opportunities that you hope for. So to me, the NBA is rarely built up from like the draft board, right? A
Right.
lot
Yeah.
of it is free agent
It's a
acquisition,
combination of a lot of
free
things,
agent,
right?
yeah, free agent movement, sign and trades. And so those rumors to me just make a little bit more sense. Again, I could be shocked because when you start looking at one, I think one report that we saw, for example, said that there was talk about Capella, Collins, Herter, and the 16th pick being, sent over to Utah, if you will. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, we'd be interested in Rudy Gobert, but yeah, that's giving up a whole heck of a lot. Or like the one that really made me cringe was the one where it's talking about giving up JC Dre and the 16th overall pick and a future round pick for Gobert and Bogdanovics. And I was like, yeah, no. But
No, nah, we
for
good.
me, it was really the bottom line was you look at those three pieces and it just makes you ask the question of wow, things just got a little more interesting because now we know for sure there's going to be a different leader, sort of, so to speak, leading the charge. We now have confirmation that Bogey has had that surgery on that knee. So it was as kind of dire as we thought it was because, I mean, surgery was needed. And now you're bantering around so many different options as far as trade goes. Where will this team actually land as it relates to what they need to do to look like the contender that they need to be to reset to become that contender next season? So, speaking of resetting, there is a team that reset and looks like they finally might be getting it together to be on the cusp of one of those GOAT conversations that is actually a valid GOAT conversation. So we will talk about that and some other things. And if you want to know what those other things are about in our intersection of sports, entertainment, and the culture, come back for it on the other side. It's ATL Day Ones. We will see you on the other side.